Hey everybody, this is Petey from the Spinner Rack, and today I'm doing Wolverine Essentials. I'm doing a certain story, 17 through 17, issue 17 through 23 in this book that was done by Archie Goodwin, Byrne, and Klaus Janson. Now, this reprints the first Wolverine series, and I think that ran over well over 100 issues, and it was a popular book for a long time until Marvel needed new number ones for it. But we have the great Archie Goodwin who took over the title. Now this is a great book to have. It's in black and white. It has all the stories. It has some great inkers also in there, so you're getting to see their work in black and white, right? So you have John Buscema and Al Williamson. Obviously, Chris Claremont does the story for the first 10 issues. The first, I believe, it's a total of 9 issues. He does 8 issues and skips one, and then issue 10. Peter David does the fill-in. So this is some really gorgeous stuff by Buscema and Al Williamson. So you have this book. It's really nice to have, and getting to see this stuff in black and white, right? And this is the, and Klaus Janson does a sneak peek. He does one issue of this with John Buscema. The rest is done by Al Williamson. We have the issue 8, which is the Chris Claremont revenge issue for Hulk 8340, where the Wolverine, the Hulk almost kills Wolverine, right? They have the Mr. Fix-It issue, and this one was inked by John Buscema. It's one of the, I think there's only a couple that he inked himself, right? So just quickly going through, but that was the first part. This is the second part here. This is the payback issue, right? Yep, so this one's inked by John Buscema also. So you got that in this book, right? We haven't even got to Byrne yet. And and Buscema did great women, but he also put them in real clothing. He didn't put them in the form-fitting comic book outfits. He put them in what real costumes real costumes would actually be like real clothing that move like real people do, so they don't look like the sharp angular things that we normally see. So sometimes you don't always see the body until they come out of the clothing, right? So let's get past this. This is the one, the Gene Colan issue. And then we got a big one coming up, which is just scanning through this very rough Gene Colan stuff. Then you have another big one, which is issue 10 by Buscema and Bill Sienkiewicz, and this one is a throwback to a story that Byrne, and I guess it was the Byrne idea, because Byrne put Sabretooth and Wolverine together. That was his bit, that they were father and son, and that Wolverine would kill, Sabretooth would kill someone, and that would lead to a major battle between the two of them, and it would lead to something where he would come back, and that was the story they were planning on doing, that he would kill someone in Wolverine's life, and that would leave Wolverine to have to take him out finally, right? So we have this, we have like another 6 issues of that, because the Jenna Stone story has the same art team on it with Peter David writing, right? This is a fun sort of story. Nice covers by Kevin Nolan. So we're going to jump ahead. We've seen all that stuff, but at the time, John Byrne was doing West Coast Avengers and She-Hulk. And She-Hulk was a top 10 book at Marvel, at least for the first 4 issues until summer hit. And Marvel had the many double X crossovers to push it out. But the initial launch of the She-Hulk was pretty big. So when you hear, I think Rob Liefeld called Byrne West Coast Avengers, John Byrne. He was Wolverine, John Byrne also, right? He did this classic cover, so it wasn't like they were keeping him from top books. He's an old school sort of creator who wasn't coming in and kicking down the Marvel doors to take over top titles. At this point, Archie Goodwin, who was doing the graphic novel for Wolverine, the Scorpio Connection, had decided to take over the Wolverine title, at least for a little while. And they didn't have an artist. John Buscema was getting off of that. He was moving back to the Marvel Comics Presents, the weekly series. So they needed an artist. So someone was nutty enough to call up John Byrne and say, hey, you think you can find time to draw Wolverine? And because Archie Goodwin was writing it, Byrne said, oh, he had to do it. Now, in this book here, Byrne loosely talks about that him and Archie Goodwin were going to do the Fantastic Four before Byrne was writing it himself, and that didn't happen. So they were both sad that it didn't happen. So this was Byrne's chance to work with Archie Goodwin, and he was like, he got 6 pages of plot from Archie, and it was more stuff than the first year of Chris Claremont and Byrne's X-Men. And he was like, it's only 6 pages, but he knew how to space it out. He knew how to give you a lot of information, and he knew how to give you a little, right? So it was, he was very happy to work with Archie Goodwin. He was only doing loose breakdowns. Now this is a book that's kind of, people are on the fence with this run, because even though you had this dynamic cover, and I think someone was nutty enough to re-ink this cover, which makes no sense. It's like, if you're not a fan of his inking, then just leave it alone, because there's nothing you can do to top this. I've seen it, and it's just like, I think it was Joseph Rubinstein, and I was just like, there's no real difference. The difference is so small. Why would you have anyone do something like that? I say, oh no, it's, it's not. So anyway, that said, this starts off. Now, one of the things you'll see, and this is the same way Klaus worked when he was working with John Buscema, is that anything that had mood in it, whether it be breakdowns, Klaus would pull in all of his stops. The skyline, like these rough areas, all this stuff is here. Whether you're worried about the line being scratchy or anything ridiculous like that, this mood here gets you to this. And it's just like, wow. Now, I'm going to have a contrast on the same page, on the same, these same 2 pages. We had this gorgeous shot here of Wolverine taking out this boar. But then we had this shot here. And for me, after all I just said, the signature shot is here, because Al Williamson was one of the ones who, had the opportunity to possibly ink the series, but he bowed out. And this page was so amazing. I think it's just like, I think it was in the comic books interview, and I was just like really taken with it. So look, this one is like the Wolverine shot of the entire book. But there's other good stuff in here. I'm not going to stop and say that, but it's kind of what if Al Williamson's inked Byrne for an entire run. But, like add in his realism to Byrne's sort of cartooniness, and you get a nice middle ground. Where this is not necessarily Miller and Clinton and Janson, but it's something different. And when you see these darker shots, you'll see some really cool stuff. Now, when we turn the page, we have this page to see all this stuff in this mood lighting and all the stuff he's adding to the background here. Whether you're worried that it's not Terry Austin, when there's nothing in here in the desert, it's really open, right? So that's the only thing. And this feels like at some point, when you had pages like this, Klaus would really just ink them, not really go all too far. Maybe this page doesn't need much more, but you would see, because Byrne does a lot of open sort of daytime scenes, and then you wouldn't, like say like this, right? All these shots here are nice, Maybe this one needs a little more detail. This would be fun if he puts more detail in it. But as we go along, we got a nice shot here. We got a nice shot. Like, we got all this nice stuff here. I think they might have added some gray tones for it, but this is looking really good. And then we have all the classic characters that was in the book. You know, Blood Scream, I think the Prince, you know, the Tiger, you know, all of his Terror the Pilot's characters that were in here, Corrigan, and then Roughhouse, who got beat up by Wolverine. He sold off to someone with a metal arm, right? So, you know, sorry, this is the Prince. The Prince is here. He's buying off this Roughhouse, taking him off his hands, right? Then Wolverine, getting the skyline, getting the feel of Madripoor, and then he gets a scent. And see, this Byrne also showing you that he's using his nose, right? Not just dialogue, he's having the angle so you can kind of hint that he's using it, that he's sniffing here, that he's something there, and then he goes after it, right? So it's incredibly trying to keep the visuals here. And this is one of the other things, there's an angle that Byrne is going to be doing here with Wolverine. Is that Wolverine is not going to be able to fly in this series, right? Like what, 11 minutes in? So let's see. But see, like this shot here, look at the detail on this stuff, right? The water, that sort of thing. Like, he's adding some really cool stuff in here. And whether it's not slick like you're supposed to do, I guess, with Byrne, you got some cool stuff in here with the two of them together, right? And this is telling you what the drug that they've been peddling kind of does to people. You know, it's taking people out and having them go crazy, right? And it's going to lead to a really big cosmic story, right? So Wolverine, we reveal that this guy is an old Nazi cyborg. That's a low-rent cyborg that's keeping himself alive by the barest of bare. And he's going to give Roughhouse a shave. And he's going to reveal that Roughhouse has these scars, right? So Wolverine, this is another killer shot. This, when I saw this in, I think, Comics Interview, I saw it's like rough pencils, but it's printed pretty badly. You could see this shot was going to be cool. And Klaus pulled out all the stops, right? These covers with this really rough sort of detail, there's some really nice covers here, right? As a kid, it was kind of tough, but, you know, at the same time, looking at it now, I like the detail, right? And then all out action, right? And Byrne went back to Wolverine being kind of bulky. At some point, all of his characters lost like 5 and 10 pounds, especially Reed Richards, who lost like 20. So at this point, when he came back to Marvel, you could see Hank Pym, when he was doing West Coast, was a little slim. And at some point, he beefed the guys back up. He kind of gave up the ghost of trying to make, you know, like really slim down his characters, even though, like, and just let the different, you know, let the different body types just shine out, not fight with saying, hey, these are inflato muscles, right? So we get the hint of this president, you know, this dictator wants to try to get his own superhero by seeing the character Nuke. That's why they were kind of trying to show Daredevil earlier. But see, like, look at some of these cool effects that are in here, right? With the inking and that stuff. And it's like, yeah, it's not like, it's like the best of both worlds. Some of Klaus's detail with Byrne's, you know, Byrne's breakdowns or Byrne's layouts, right? And the person he's helping is going crazy because he's kind of affected with this stuff too. And when you keep fighting with Wolverine, he can't reason with you. He's had enough. Right? And look at this face, making sure that he doesn't necessarily look regular, right? he has this sort of odd face, right? And I think this is based off of an actor in the movie Slapshot, right? So Wolverine, of course, being the guy that gets, tossed out of a plane, gets take him and they drop him in the river, right? And here we meet some of the other characters. We have this dictator and we have Sister Salvation. She's going to play a bigger part later in the story, right? Ooh, sorry, guys. Let's show you how dark this character could be, right? So all Wolverine's people, and this is the last we're going to see Wolverine's friends, because he's going to leave town for a little way. He's got to go to Tierra Verde, right? And here's Wolverine. So that's hinting to anyone who knows the comic books that we already had who's that character? Gateway kind of teleport Wolverine. We kind of have the experience of him being teleported to Terra Verde, right? And this is another cool cover. Him being underwater and has acts of vengeance, right? Nice mood setup. And they introduced Tiger Shark and La Bandera, which Marvel, I think, is killed. They always talk about this diversity thing, but what did they do? They just trash these characters like they're nothing, right? So she is this small-time hero fighting this big-time villain, right? And Tiger Shark has a lot of energy in this story, right? So, like, Tiger Shark just mean and nasty for no good reason, right? So look at, what else did I do? I'm not getting to the other bits, but look at this sort of thing, right? This is where he's really pulling out all the stops, right? And I think, I guess it's because it doesn't look like how Byrne or how Terry Austin would think. But this is it. You look at this random, boring-ass page right here is the killer page. This is the page, right? Where Wolverine runs into a CIA agent, Jack Bascom, and he's like a total jerk to Wolverine, but he's giving him a little bit of information. And this is one of the things, in the 90s, Wolverine would run into old friends that are always superheroes. This is cool to just have just an ordinary guy that gives him information, having this human moment in here, and not just run into every one of Wolverine's friends has a superpower, right? Little Acts of Vengeance page. So this whole thing is that he has some sort of superhero envy, so he wants his own operative. He's tired of the other countries having their superheroes, so he's going to do it. And Wolverine is like still on the chase after Geist and trying to find Roadhouse, right? And see, look at that, is crazy. Like, look at the detail that Klaus brought to this page, right? What did I tell you about when it comes to the dark scenes? He just pulls out all the stuff. And the other thing, the Byrne really letting us keeping in mind that he's short, right? That's one thing that's kind of forgotten as these stories go along. Byrne doesn't really get rid of that, right? And then the water scenes again. I told you, Klaus is just adding so much of this rough detail to the work, and it's just like really fun, right? I mean, again, it's not a Byrne finishing that we've seen before, but it's just sort of like, it's not even Klaus and Byrne from back in the Avengers, and this cover is really nice, right? Oh man, it's issue 20, right? So he opened up this one for the scene so you can see the fight. right? So I'm okay with this. It's still got a ton of detail, but this was left kind of open so you can see the fight. And Byrne has a good aspect of Wolverine has an in with his claws against Tiger Shark, but Tiger Shark is able to leap up out of the water and come back down and mess with Wolverine and take his claws, his advantage out of his hands. And then we have Wolverine challenged like he's never been challenged before. He's stuck underwater, right? Now, this is the key to your comic book story. And this is what gets lost when your hero, say like Spider-Man, can dodge everything. Have the hero in danger. Have us worry about him. What you say is like Batman. No, we have to sort of play the life and death aspect of comic books, right? This is the part of it. Whether we know they're going to be a next issue. As kids, we didn't know they were going to be a next issue. I didn't have it all put together. But I saw something happen in La Bear when she's going by herself. She doesn't have the power that she once had, right? So she's basically seemingly useless, but she's crafty and she gets out. And they gave this sort of drug to Rufflehouse, and it's really reacting badly to him. And he's about to kill La Bandera, and then Wolverine shows up and hacks away, and then at the same time tells you how he got out, right? And there was some luck involved, and she sees it, and this is what rarely happens in a comic book, right? The character next to Wolverine is just like, ugh, that was horrible. Whether she was being saved by Wolverine or not. Then there's another bit. Since Wolverine was underwater, it damages his hearing, right? So she's talking to him. She said, Wolverine. He said, waste your effort talking to me, kid. I've been trapped underwater, blew something in my hearing. So that's really cool that this thing, and this is one of the things that you can't see, but it's a good bit to just add here because it just adds some weight to what happened, right? So Wolverine finally frees Rufflehouse, who's going through all the stuff with this drug that they put through him. That's going to be revealed a bit later. And then Wolverine also takes his wife, the wife of the ruler of this Tierra Verde. And then, of course, Tiger Shark's still alive. He's ready to take on Wolverine again. But basically, as he's bringing it down, some other sharks come out and they take on Tiger Shark because he's bloody and But before Wolverine gets away, he was hit with the darts with this drug also, right? And there it is, the secret of Caradad's cocaine, right? So that's what this drug that he's been giving is kind of a problem. Now here, this is going to be a nod to the first page in the Wolverine miniseries. Now you say just because there's a face of Wolverine, no, it's more than that. Because if you look at the original art to Miller's breakdown for the first page, it had a lot of detail on the face. And Joe Rubenstein kind of trimmed it out and left the edges with the detail, right? And kept the face open. And Byrne has kind of rendered what that that Frank Miller face, has a different face for Wolverine than Miller had. The same sort of look of what that would look of having all this detail on Wolverine's face, right? And here's the X-Men 2 seconds before they die, right? They're trying to get Wolverine, but they can't connect with him. Why? Because he's going crazy, right? We're at issue 21. We're making our way. We only got 5 more minutes, right? So this issue is a fun issue, right? Wolverine's going through it, but Byrne and I guess Archie Goodwin and Byrne are showcasing Wolverine's healing factor through his mind, right? Because he's going crazy. Roughhouse is holding him, and the what's the name? Salvation is able to use her powers to try to calm him down, but she's not. She's kind of worse, so she's able to calm him down for a second, right? And they're trying to track them at the same time, right? So Wolverine, of course, is going crazy again. But this, where we get a cool fight scene where Wolverine jumps out, and this is all what's happening in his mind. But it doesn't let me, and it's not anything less. This is against German soldiers, right? So Wolverine is just brutally taking them out. It's like a real, like I never see any of this art show up in the Heritage Auction, but I wish it did. Like here, like look at this. The other thing is that he's not stretching. Byrne is not stretching Wolverine's abilities, because usually the trick to Wolverine is to cheat everything, right? But Byrne is working reversely. If Wolverine is going to leap, he's going to get on top of a building and jump down, right? And this is not how he did the X-Men. He's jumping out a window, jumping down from a building. Everything is working so it's kind of believable. And then some of the shots, he's not turning it all around so you can see the claws up front. He's showing you the action, but he's not cheating it. There's one thing that, though, if you look at a lot of Wolverine books, he's always kind of flying. He's always the cut to show you the claws, that sort of thing. And this is kind of a different approach to Wolverine. Kind of, I don't even know who I can compare it to. So this is going through this. At the same time, Salvation is trying to help him out. And they make a connection in the dream, but when he wakes up, she's just holding him, right? When Roughhouse wakes up, she's just holding him, right? And she said, I could hear a kiss, but saying, uh-oh, that may have happened, right? So Wolverine is still going through this stuff, right? He's still having his dream. It's a really cool shot here. Right? So the other thing is that Wolverine just climbing to do stuff. So it's making this stuff he's doing a little more believable, even though it's a dream sequence. Right? And as he kills the people, he realizes who his true enemy is, Spore. Right? And then Wolverine's going even more crazy. So she takes off her veil and she said, let me hold it. Right? So we get the history of Spore. Spore was one of the deviants, and he was exercised, but a little of him was left. And it was sort of made its way into the drug game, sort of diluting some drugs, and Wolverine's healing factor with Salvation helps him out of it, and he survived it, right? So this is other interesting, that he didn't do it by himself. He had a little bit of help, but he's kind of been going through it by helping Wolverine. And then, of course, she has to come back because this her husband, Felix, has her son. Right? So then the other thing Byrne would do is actually draw Wolverine from time to time. And then have Mariko show up for 2 seconds. Or Mariko. And here we go. Look at that. See? What did I tell you? I'm going over the 30-minute mark, guys. Sorry. Look at this. This thing sells the rest of the rest of the book. Right? Some fun stuff going on here. Right? Shows his son he's okay. But then they're in there. They get the hint that this thing, they can't let this Spore thing happen. Tells about his history. And then we see that things aren't going to go the way they planned, right? And then see, instead of Wolverine doing it, we got Roughhouse He wants to put on his costume. And this is one of the other things is that during this series, the editorial was like, put him back in his costume, right? I guess maybe letters or whatever. And the kid is going to become the superhero. And then Wolverine knocks away that and cuts his hand off. But Wolverine didn't actually destroy those darts, knocked them at Felix, right? And she won't heal him. Geist is making his exit. And La Bandera comes to overthrow Felix. But Felix at the same time is going through that. And La Bandera has a mutant power to inspire. And that gives her a power. And she's just a fun character, right? But Spore is still alive, and Spore knew that he connected with Wolverine. Now, this is a little cosmic for that, but Wolverine's an X-Men, and sometimes it can be cosmic. But we kind of think of Batman with Wolverine from time to time, but hey, you got the Eternals and the Deviants. Why not use it? So this is giving Wolverine his first really big not really that cosmic, but having to fight this sort of weird monster, right? And this issue, Klaus was not able to ink the last one, right? I think this is before the Hulk. No, I guess it's after 340, right? So Byrne did this digitally, adding Geist to the claws, right? So Byrne drew this and inked it, tried to keep it rough to sort of match what Klaus did, you know? And some shots it is, not many, but it does have the overall feel of what Klaus was doing. And these shots, even though it's a lot of Spore, feels like it's real claustrophobic and he could take over, that sort of thing, right? And see, once again, what Wolverine does, he goes from a building to make his leap, right? So it's one of those things where instead of having him flying around, he does that, right? So I jump past it. Salvation uses her healing power, which destroys Spore in the most dramatic of pages. And they finally resolve things, right? Felix is dead. Spore is gone. Roughhouse is staying with Lady Salvation. Lady Salvation says she's possibly a mutant. And Wolverine cuts her off, saying there might have been more that happened between them, right? Wolverine finds Geist, and of course, gives a little payback, right? Leaves him for dead. And La Bandera did it. They're able to try to free Tierra Verde, right? Of course, it's politics, right? So things don't necessarily work out like they planned. But this is a gorgeous panel right here. This shot here, that's really cool. And Wolverine bids his adieu. But he runs into Bascom again, right? And Wolverine gives him a piece of mind, but leaves him. Look at this. This is things that you have to have, right? So he realizes he has to go back to Madripoor and deal with things, right? Through this little bit of information that he got from that Bascom. So, of course, he rounds up the general and the prince. And then he's like, hey. Wolverine says he's the only person that could possibly survive that cocaine that he had. And Wolverine is like, see if you guys trapped being in the sewers yourself, and they have to walk out of Madripoor sewers in front of their own people. And then Geist is running around. and a little bit of current Marvel continuity that Wolverine's going after the old Nazis. And that's it. We did it. We have that. And I think one of the last bits that Byrne said about this series was he was surprised that Archie was gone, but when Archie left, he decided he was leaving, right? And that would lead to a few issues later, Mark Silvestri taking over the book. But then I think Archie Goodwin called up Byrne after they first got royalties off it, because I think it's a six-month sort of delay. And then he said, why did we leave this book? So there you have it, The Essential Wolverine. Spinner Rack out.